It's juice bag.
Maybe I'll go higher on this one.
It's juice bag.
So it's juice. Let's just do a few like juice bags.
Juice bag.
I think we should do hip hop hype beast.
Okay.
Juice bag.
Noise.
Okay.
Hoa 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 hoa. You got me.
I did get you, but you did so good, and it doesn't even matter.
Tried to nail it because I knew there was we were both making too much eye contact.
I know.
I knew it was a possibility, but I committed to the bit.
Welcome to Juice Bag, everybody, where we are in full fall season. We are watching Twilight. We are watching Gilmore Girls. We're making references. We are drinking PSLs. How was yours?
I made homemade PSL syrup from a recipe online. Mm-hmm. It is delicious. In fact, way better than I thought. So yeah, highly recommend just making a PSL at home.
Well, how'd you make it? Like, what's in it?
You just make it on a stove top. You make like a simple syrup with like 1-to-1 parts of water to sweetener, and then you add pumpkin puree and then pumpkin spice. I added a dash of amaretto flavoring, like extract for almond, and also vanilla extract.
Well, it's super good.
Yeah, it honestly, this one's a little bit weaker, like less pumpkin-y today because we went pretty hard the first time we had them with the amount of syrup that we had. So this time is a little lighter, but it's nice. It's pleasant. It's cozy.
Yeah, it's a little bit lighter. I think it's quite delicious, though.
I agree.
And I'm having a latte. You are having a steamer. And you were just talking about how you wish you had maybe made a latte yourself.
Yeah, I'm a little tired. This week, we committed on Sunday. We had our typical couple business meeting about things we need to do and budget and blah, blah, blah. And one of the goals this week was to wake up at 6 a.m. together to exercise every day before work, which is only a half hour early for you, but is an hour and a half early for me.
But it's nice though, right? Right? No?
I don't know.
Oh no.
Because at this point, I am very tired. I am committed to doing it this week.
Yeah.
But
maybe
not
some
lie.
adjustments next week.
Yeah. I mean, I was already on my grind for exercise, and I kind of like what I was doing more than being up an extra hour and a half. So we'll see. We'll see.
I love my mornings. This might re-inspire me to get back into my morning workout grind. But anyway, it's September 26th, if you can believe it. We've been gone for a little bit.
Yeah. That needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
We made 2 episodes and then we fell off the face of the earth.
Wasn't our fault.
Well.
Yeah, except it was.
A little bit.
Yeah.
What did we do? So where we left off is before our trip to Boise. And then we came back and recorded our regularly scheduled episode. And then we just decided it wasn't very good. So we're like, not this time.
Yeah.
And now, so I think it's only been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which would make it 3 weeks since we posted.
I think so.
Right?
I don't think it's been as long as we think it has. It feels like it's been an eternity, but I feel like that's just because life's been dragging recently. I
think we skipped a week too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been 4 weeks.
So it's been a while.
Yikes. Anyway.
It's been 3.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. But we're back. We know that we have some, reoccurring listeners out there. We could be the company in your car or just in your little earbuds.
Or you can just listen to us talk like a weird little fly on the wall.
Yeah.
A little voyeuristic weirdo.
In the best way. In the best way.
No, honestly, I feel like the past few weeks have been crazy, though. We went to Boise. That trip was fun. We can talk about that if we really want to. But we got back. We're still sick. We're still sick to this day. We've been sick for 7 weeks.
I don't count what I have left as sick, really. Like I have
You're still coughing.
Yeah, I have a little bit of phlegm, but it's not like I'm positive that will just fade away. And it's not like I have unprovoked like coughing fits. It's like I need to clear my lungs in the morning, but it's way, 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 way better than before.
Well, yeah. I mean, I agree with that, but I still have quite a cough and I still have phlegm and stuff coming up. So I'm still coughing at work, but honestly, I feel less bad because now everyone else is coughing and they all went on vacations and I think they blamed their vacations and not me. So I'm in the clear. Go me.
Yeah.
What else monumentous happened
I feel like
recently?
we should mention some like pivotal points to do with our Boise trip. Just like the highs and lows, I guess. I'll start since I brought it up and you can think. since
Okay.
I put you on the spot. So I feel like, so we updated in our deleted episode, but I want to make sure I touch on some kind of memories for ourselves, because this podcast is for us too, to look back on what's going on in life. And for me, I feel like visiting family kind of after like, I mean, it had been like 2 years since we had been back to Boise, like around all of our, immediate family. And so I just feel like I had a brand new perspective on just like what family was, what I wanted for family, with my new lens on life as a human. I just feel like I've evolved in the last year quite a bit. But that being said, I feel like, again, I have the, I can change my mind at any point. I have the right to do that. But I'm feeling a lot more peace with the idea of adopting and having the role of being a mother and like very amazing homemaker, I guess they would call it.
Wow.
What?
I just feel like this had nothing to do with our trip to Boise at all.
It did for me. I think
It's very nice. I
don't know. I feel like the girlies would get it. It's like being around family, seeing different siblings with kids and without kids, and different relationships. Like some of our siblings have stepkids or like, I don't know, just like second marriages and all sorts of different relationship mix-ups, or all the different options you could have, we can see through our siblings. So I just feel like I was taking little mental notes myself of like, based on my character traits, what lifestyle choices I would make for child rearing. And I feel a lot more solid with that.
I think we talked about this too, but it was almost like you were more comfortable because you saw other scenarios of how to live life that maybe we are not currently pursuing, but you still saw that those people were happy. And so it just encouraged you to know that family is important and it's always worth pursuing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think in my next chapter, I would imagine in my mid-30s, I will be, that will be my main thoughts about life, is like how we're going to start a family, how to keep everyone maintained and healthy and happy, and all that stuff, and how the heck we're going to find family members out there to adopt. But yeah, I feel like that was really nice for me. It just like brought me some totally unprepared for, like, I didn't plan to have any epiphanies, or that wasn't even the headspace I was in. I was just like, okay, it's going to be a crazy visit. We have like 1,000 places to be. I'm just going to endure and then go home and it will be fine. It will be great to see everybody, but it's going to be like a rally, And then just like at certain points after, like, we attended 2 different weddings and I was helping my sister plan her wedding. So it was just like the theme of the week was seeing family, families joining as one, extended family, kids, and all those things.
Yeah.
So it was just like, I was totally unprepared to be thinking about that stuff. And then, of course, there it is. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but I kind of liked it.
Good.
In fact,
No.
I liked it a lot. Yeah.
I think so. We've gone to Boise every year since we've moved away, which has been what, like 9 years now, something like that? 7 years?
Since 9 years.
9 years. That's kind of what I thought. Pulled that off the hip. But
Yeah,
anyway,
2014 we moved away.
yeah. So, and I always felt like, oh man, like this is the last time I go to Boise. Like I just can't. Like it's just so much driving, and we always kind of lovingly, but also kind of realistically call them like little business trips because we have so many family members in the valley that we have to go see.
I had to make a written itinerary of things to do because I knew if I didn't, it just wouldn't work.
We were there for 4 days and I had to refill my car twice.
Yeah, we did
We did
much driving.
so much driving to go see people. It was crazy. But anyway, so we've always, it's like, oh, Boise, like it was never a trip we were really excited for. But I feel like this one I was. And I felt like we had a really good time.
Well, because I also do feel like this time, like we went to one of your friends' weddings.
That's true.
So you had like something like outside of family to be excited for. And I wasn't on that same wavelength.
Yeah.
I was like,
that's
okay.
true. I went to go see one of my college buddies' weddings who that relationship's been a long time coming. They've almost been together as long as we have.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. But they're a little bit older than us. He's such a great guy. I love his wife too. They're so amazing. We've had them at the house before. Very funny people. And then we got invited to the wedding. I was elated. It was the day right after my brother's wedding.
Yeah.
Within like an hour drive of one another. So we went and saw both of them. And it just made the whole trip seem like it was like a trip of love. And like for you, apparently, like a trip of also like reflection and stuff.
Yeah,
of like what
family.
family could be. Kind of relating to love. So I felt like the whole Boise trip was super successful. It was really fun and cute. And it sounds like we're going to be going back next September for 2 more weddings. Again, one of my friends, one of your sisters.
We'll see if we pull it off. They're on complete opposite weekends. So we'll see what we can do. Of course, we're going to my sister's wedding, but we'll see what unfolds next year.
We can't go to my sister's wedding, my bestie.
Not as a priority. So sorry.
No, we'll see. It is a little bit spread apart, but we're definitely going to see. Luckily, with the chase points, it didn't cost us with the flights. But
we got free flights technically through rewards points to get over there. But I had no idea a pet sitter for a dog, at least over here, I don't know, is so expensive. It was like $60 a day. So I think that alone plus rental car, we're still like $1,000.
Yeah.
To do it. So it's not cheap.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to Mexico. Well, just kidding. Pretend I didn't say that. I don't like Mexico. There are stories behind that. My own personal experiences.
Also super rude to your sister. Rather go to Mexico than go to her wedding?
No, not her wedding, but you know what I mean. It's just like $1,000 could go many places, and it's hard to commit to the big trip home to Boise, Idaho, nonetheless.
No, totally. So. I understand. I was just joking. But I feel like we totally forgot about our juice bag meter. How are you doing today? I feel like you've been a little bit, maybe it's because we're both tired, but a little introspective. Yeah. A little thinky thoughty.
Yeah.
How are you?
I am having a weird phase this week. Like my juice bag feels like it's misfiring a little bit.
You seemed a little off. We've been talking about how like the seasonal transition is kind of hitting us.
Yes.
Be like less sunlight, less exposure to the sun. Like I've become a little bit more lazy, I would say, and I feel like you've become more not secluded, but like I said, pensive. Think thoughty.
So this is why juice bags are so complex. Is that I feel like the factors at play for me are I just started my period.
Boo.
Yeah, I know. And
Aunt Flo's here.
Boo. And then I have a big work trip coming up. Like I'm literally leaving on Thursday to like go see my coworkers for the first time
in Miami. Yay!
No, I realized it's not. It's in Florida.
Boo!
No,
just Florida.
No, well, it's at the beach, but I barely understand Florida. But it's not Miami. It's like 30 minutes away.
I'm glad you like Florida because in my least favorite states,
been to
number 1, New Jersey. Number 2, I almost said New Florida.
Yeah, I would say they have similar tones in different places. And I know you've been to like Orlando, but Miami is sick. It is. You've never been to Miami.
It's sick in the way of like hot and humid and nasty and terminal and gross kind of a way. Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
From the guy who's been there. Okay.
I've been there.
To Miami?
No, not Miami.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Miami's awesome. Orlando is a poot. Unless you like Disneyland.
No, nobody likes Disneyland. Also, it's Disney World. Respect.
See what I mean? Okay. Anyway, so juice bag factors at play are Aunt Flo, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
Also, waking up early to work out, because if I don't get up at 6 a.m., someone doesn't work out ever. So I'm trying to motivate you to work out by working out in the morning.
I'll talk to Vito about it if you want him to work out with you.
All right.
That's nice of you. Oh, wait, are you talking about me?
Yeah,
oh,
you,
dude, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, like you said, the season's changing. Work stuff is getting a little bit more stressful. I have my annual review coming up. So it's always like...
This is quite the build-up. I feel like you're going to give your rating a 2 or something.
I think I have to give it a 6.
That's not...
It's not that good either.
It's not that good either.
But here's why. It's like I'm having some really good like content moments, and I feel very proud of myself throughout the day where I have these moments of just like, I'm okay, everything's fine, like I'm proud of myself, I've never let myself down with these sorts of things, like regarding like work and stuff. Like I've made a couple little mistakes here and there.
Can't relate.
Yes, you can. We'll get to that later.
Shut up.
Don't dish if you can't take. So anyway, lots of factors at play. Sleepy, cranky, stressed. Hence why I'm having a PSL steamer, so sans coffee, no coffee in there, because I feel like my anxiety would not be able to.
Yeah. You've been very cool.
So there's something that I taught you about that I have when I have meetings is post-meeting happiness.
Yeah,
so,
you get weirdly energetic after a meeting.
Yes, so expect me to be in an amazing mood when I come back from my first work trip, because honestly, I feel like I'm having some pre-meeting anxiety about this like event I'm going to this weekend. And when I'm back, I'm going to feel really good. But right now I'm just like, the stars have aligned in so many ways, and with the season and the sleep and the cycles all changing, I'm just like, going through my waves of weird feelings and uncomfortable feelings and anxiety, but also
I get it. I think next week you'll be a lot higher on your reading.
Totally.
Yeah.
I plan on it. How about you? How's your juice bag?
Well, I feel like I'm just going to say it right off the bat. I think I'm at like an 8.5 juice bag wise. Like I am very clear-headed. I feel like my sickness is finally wearing off, at least from my brain side of things. The working out in the morning has been really helpful. I feel like I've been awake. I've been alert. I've been doing a little bit well at work, more
better
focused. At work, which has been really nice. I feel like I've been quite cloudy the past few weeks, which has been really difficult because I like being productive and good at my job, but I just feel like I haven't been a good worker lately.
I felt the same way, and I feel like that was going on like a week long. We took a week and a half off of work.
I know.
And I just feel like I've been a poot ever since then.
I know. So we had our meeting Monday or Sunday, me and you, where we kind of like realigned, talked about like goals and stuff, and I felt like that was such a weight off my shoulders because I felt like I was developing back pain from just like how much I was freaking sitting around moping, being like, ooh.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm finally back at it. I feel good. I feel like I'm not avoiding all my problems, which has been freaking awesome. Except that I don't live up to my own expectations and I suck at doing what I do, which is fun and leads into my story of why I'm not at a perfect 10, which is that I failed my architecture test.
Laugh so you don't cry.
I failed! And it sucked because it was for a really, really dumb reason. I'm pretty sure it just blew everybody's ear holes out.
I will say, before you go into this, plan to take your accountability when you are being dramatic.
Let's start off by saying I do take full accountability for this. This was my fault. I did not read the fine print prior to the test that I took, and that is what ultimately led to my downfall. That part of the speech is done. Now let's talk about how I have been polishing myself a diamond. I am a diamond, and I've been polishing myself. I realize I probably shouldn't have said that. I'm polishing myself. I'm just nervous.
Get to it.
Okay. I didn't read the fine print. I went into this testing center. I was super nervous. This is my first of 6 ARE exams, which is an architecture registration exam, and they are notoriously difficult to pass. They have like a 40 to 60% pass rate. Everyone's guaranteed to like basically fail one, except if you're my friend in New York who's passed all with flying colors. She has like 2 more left, and I'm super jealous of her. Anyway, I went in pretty confident, but I was very, very nervous. They like have this whole screening thing where you have to like empty your pockets and like show them your butt pockets are empty and like take off your shoes. I'm not even kidding. Like take off your sweatshirt, all this stuff.
I thought you were going to stop at show them your butt.
Yeah, no, you got to bend over and cough, do all this stuff. So I check in, I go in, I start the test. I'm feeling okay. I'm very nervous, but like I'm feeling okay. I had chugged a bunch of coffee before there because it was at 9 o'clock in the morning, which I am not normally groggy in the morning, but I was like, I want to make sure I'm focused. So I had a lot of coffee on the way over there. I was really nervous. I get about an hour.
Were you intentionally chugging coffee before your test?
No, I might have had like 2 cups. 2 cups of coffee, which is not too bad for me, but it was in a short period of time, and they were kind of bigger cups. So anyway, I'm sitting in the room. I'm taking like an hour. I'm like an hour into the test. It's a 2.5 hour long test. I get about an hour in, and I'm like fighting for my life in this chair because I have to pee so bad. And I'm just like flying through the test, and I've marked all the ones that I don't know right off the bat with like a little flag, and it says mark for review. And then I move on to the next one. I'm just answering all the ones I know. and I'm marking all the ones for review that I don't know. I'm like probably 30 questions in. I have like maybe 15-ish marked, and a few like just kind of viewed, but only for like reference, because some of the questions have important reference material. Not important. So I probably have like 18 questions I haven't answered yet that I marked for review, and I raise my hand and I'm like, Proctor, I need to take a whiz. And so he comes over here and he's like, click the break button. And then I click the break button and he's like, click the screen, you're good to go. So I go down, I click the screen, double tap, whatever. I'm on my way. I go out, handle my business. I come back, they re-screen me, recheck my butt cheeks, all that stuff. Send me back in there. I start the test, and to my dismay, I have found that I am locked out of every single question that I have viewed in the test so far, whether it has been answered or not. And so I immediately did like a quick calculation, and I realized that I basically failed already right off the bat, because I had not answered about 12 to 15 questions that were just zeros on there, and there was no way I could physically pass the test at that point. So anyway, the long story short is that I peed. I took the break, and the machine thought I was cheating, and so it locked me out of all the questions I had viewed, and apparently went and got the answers for, came back, and then couldn't answer them anymore, even though I had marked them for review. I complained about it on Reddit. They said, yeah, it's a new feature, but they should have told you about it, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, I was super dismayed. I was like horrified that I had paid like $250 to take this test, only to fail just like within the first hour. And I did really bad. I only ended up not passing, I think, by like 5 to 6 questions, if my math's correct. It is correct, which is still, I like to think that's a little impressive. I don't know. Based on the fact that I literally,
if you didn't mess up that
I feel like there was a good chance I would have passed. But like after that happened, I had like 35 more questions, and I could barely read. It was like I was so nervous, and I couldn't stop thinking about how I literally just shot myself in the foot. And I just couldn't get over it.
Did you say anything to the proctor?
No, I was like humiliated, because it was like literally just my fault, and like I could try and like be a Karen and like, you know, blame the proctor for like not telling me, but he's just gonna be like, well, you should have read the fine print, you should have read the this thing before you came in, blah blah blah. Like, but I just feel like it's such a important thing to like, hey, maybe remind me that that's the thing, and not just tell me to click through the screen without reading what it says. So I do take accountability. It was my fault, but ultimately it's just a stupid situation. I would have passed. I have to wait another 60 days to retake it. But the good
I think it's
news
what they would
is,
call a technicality.
It's a technicality. It is totally Dakota's brand. I always fail the first test, and then I do fine the rest of the time. I don't know why that happens to me. It just does.
You just need to be threatened into failure, and then you're set straight.
And now I know what it tastes like, and it tastes bad. Yeah. And so I'm going to move forward. But I literally contacted NCARB about it, because I was so like, this is unjust. I know it's my fault, but also like, this is a new feature that I did not know about. And they ended up giving me a free test. So they credited me a seat. They didn't agree with me that it was unfair, but they're like, but we're also committed to like everyone doing a good job. So why don't you just have a free test so you can retake it? I'm like, great. Awesome.
Yeah.
So anyway, got to schedule that this weekend. But that was a real big stinger, and it sucks.
You went through all cycles of grief.
I did.
In like 24 hours.
I know.
It was very whiplashy, but
I was very low.
I expected nothing less.
Literally like sitting on the floor at Jett's feet. Jett was like totally expecting me to pass, and she's like pulling me up, being a great supportive wife. And it's just hard, man. Failure really sucks.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like, obviously nobody else's fault except yourself.
Yeah.
And it stinks, but you got to get back on that horse. Yep. And I'm going to.
We've learned what?
Read the fine print. Be slower.
Yes.
Be more detail oriented.
When you're signing up for things and doing stuff and there's dialogue boxes, typically they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
Must read them.
It's a lesson I have yet to learn from all the syllabuses I didn't read in college.
I think you have learned regarding these tests, but yeah.
Yeah. God.
It's one of those things. You'll be
I know.
fine.
So obviously, failing stuff is like super vulnerable, and that's why my juice bag isn't at its highest
I'm
point
surprised
yet.
you're at an 8.5.
I feel good. I like taking care of myself. I like working out in the mornings. I'm a morning guy. I feel more awake lately. I feel like you've been in a really good mood. I feel like we finally realigned and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we were like upset with one another, but we just kind of, I felt like our life was kind of getting a little less controlled than we would like. And so I feel like everything's back to where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Life is not as hard as it used to be. Like, I feel like in college, this would have killed me, but now it's like, even when I get nervous about going to work, I like show up to work and I'm like, oh, this actually is not that bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, aside from that, I mean, there is the vulnerability aspect. I did have to tell my boss and basically all my coworkers in front of like a meeting panel that like, oh, by the way, I didn't pass my architecture exam that you guys helped me pay for. Super fun, got to retake it. Cool story. Bye. And then I, held my head low and avoided everybody the rest of the day.
One thing I feel like I need to say for you as your supportive wife is that when you say stuff like that you had to tell, which you did at one of Dakota's meetings, like you just said, one of their, like his kind of performance goals as a team is to work towards being a licensed architect. So it's like this personal goal Dakota has that like applies to his career that then is a goal at work. And so announcing to an entire room of people that you failed this class that your company helped you pay for and has been talking about and uplifting you about and supporting you towards is like really embarrassing and really stressful. And I don't think I would have survived. And so I feel like...
When's the support part coming?
Well, what I'm saying is I think the fact that you can do that and you did that and you're back up on your feet and you're like... the thing I'm trying to say is I wouldn't put myself in situations where I had the opportunity to fail. And I think like I do, but not to that level.
Yeah.
And I think you doing that is really brave. And I think it shows that you're willing to try challenging things and do hard things as it relates to your personal goals and career. And I'm still proud of you.
I really appreciate that, actually. That made a good, nice circle back.
Yeah.
That's very nice of you to say. In fact, don't I remember you saying something really sweet to me after the fact? Like you said, what did you say? It was like you do things without knowing that you're going to do well in them. Or something like that.
It's kind of a similar note where it's like the reason why I feel like you end up failing more than me is because you do more things that have the possibility of failure because they're
it's
like...
It's not a guarantee.
Yes. Yeah. And I tend to play the soft game and path of least resistance when it comes to knowing my capabilities in advance, which tends to not lead to challenges and those sorts of situations. So I think it's really cool that you're brave enough alone to try those things.
I appreciate that. I don't know if it's any way to live. It's always the way I've lived, but...
Well, I still feel that it's necessary that I shame you over you missing little details because I do think you have great potential and a technicality obviously is really annoying, but clearly you're aware and clearly you're not just quitting or like whatever. You're still going to do awesome. So...
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I don't know if it's a way to live. I feel like I am honestly very stressed very often because I'm constantly doing things that I'm unsure of. Whereas I feel like you're a lot more confident and cool with the things that you do. And so I feel like it's just, like I said, it's just two different ways.
Yeah, I just think I'm a lot more calculated, which isn't necessarily
but I also feel like it's our outlook on life that affects it too. I know that you are an optimist and I'm a pessimist, which means that you best believe... As soon as I paid the cashola to take that test, I fully expected to fail it. Not that like that was the goal, but it was like I had thought of every single worst case scenario where I failed it. And there was only like, if I had 100 thoughts that day, 99% of them were that I was going to fail and 1% of them was I was going to pass. I know. Horrible, huh?
That blows my mind because it's not like you haven't been studying. You read a giant book and you made tons of flashcards and you have been studying and doing all the right things. So I don't know why.
I read
you need to think about
giant books. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And yes, I know.
You need to think about manifesting.
Yeah, I know. Well, now I
just
can.
Just a little bit. Bring the energy, man.
I
like,
know.
Bring the energy that I will read fine print. I will pay attention, and I will do awesome on the test. You know what I mean?
I know. It's just the mechanism I've employed since I was a kid to like protect myself for being let down and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to get into like childhood trauma and stuff, but when you live in a family where people don't normally come through and you tend to not be able to come through yourself due to circumstances that are within your control and without your control, you know, you tend to not be able to manifest the best intentions. And so it's something I've always struggled with and something I'm working on. But now, I mean, I know what the experience is like. Everyone on Reddit told me it was just a very expensive practice test. I know what to expect. I feel like I'm going to do really well on the next one. And hopefully the rest of them don't put up too much of a fight. But
yeah, I think you'll do great.
Thank you. I do appreciate that.
Cool. And I feel like, I know this is pretty far into the episode, but I feel like it's important that we remind everybody the name of the podcast and our reference to juice bag and kind of what that is, because I don't know, I feel like we need to sprinkle it in whenever we have an episode for a while, just so that we don't forget and the listeners don't forget. But the juice bag is an acknowledgement of that we have a physical body, like a human meat sack, basically. Mm-hmm. And we have a mind that exists within it. Mm-hmm. And within our meat sack, there are lots of juices flowing around that are like hormones and, you know, all the sciencey things that are running through your body, emotions, things that are being released in your body, all relating to your like typical, the way I like to think of it is like you're a plant. Like, have you gotten the energy expelled that you need to? Have you got enough sunshine? Are you eating the right stuff? And
got enough water?
Yeah. Have you, yes, that one. Mm-hmm. Meeting your basic needs. Like, as a human being, check yourself for, like, especially for us ladies, like the hormone cycle of the month, like where you're at there and, you know, what factors could be at play that are poisoning your juice bag to make you feel misaligned with the way your mind actually is. And thinking about how your juice bag or the juices flowing through your body, you know, affect your mind and the way you perceive different situations and, you know, just your general demeanor and feeling towards the world is the, like, juice bag concept.
Totally. And I feel like there was a lot of things I could have done better at my test specifically. Like, I felt like I exposed my soul to a lot of anxiety by drinking a shiz load of caffeine right before. Mm-hmm. And I didn't sleep well the night before and stuff like that. And those little things affect you. Mm-hmm. And it affects you every day. And you have to kind of keep an eye on it, keep track on it, and understand what your body's needing and what your body's having an excess of, and then learning how to correct it. So it's a daily battle. And
I honestly, the way I like to think of some of the advice that we give surrounding it is not like, it's not mental health advice. It's not, you know, to replace therapy or anything like that. But I do feel like it's the first step where we're that gentle nudge reminding you that you are worth pursuing your own basic needs. Mm-hmm. And you need to go drink some water. You need to prioritize sleep. Think about the things you're consuming or different dependencies you have and what they are distracting you from, so that you can get to the core of what you want and feel yourself.
It all goes back to that manifesting thing. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to manifest good vibes, good energy, being able to attract things that you want to you. And that all starts with waking up at the beginning of the day, taking care of yourself, and then showing the world what you got. And if you got the stuff that the world wants, it will give you the things that you want. It's very weird how it works, but that is how it works.
And some days you'll wake up and your juice bag won't be what you expect it to. I'm talking to you ladies out there. You know what it's like to wake up and be like, I could suffocate my husband with a pillow. Not really, but you know what I mean. Just like
that's feeling
feeling off the whole day. or just being sassy all day when you're just like, man, I need to not be so rude or whatever, just because it's your juice bag flaring out. So anyway, I just thought I would throw this in here since we hadn't put out an episode in a little while, and I want to make sure people know that.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to our primary format after maybe a little breaky poo.
Yeah.
Then we'll come back and we'll get to some questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be fun.
Okay.
See you in a minute.
Bye.
Sorry to interrupt this week's episode, folks, but we'd like to remind you that if you enjoy what you're listening to please consider subscribing and sharing our podcast. Also, don't forget to leave us a review on all major podcast platforms.
We're about to roll into our Q&A portion of the episode, so if you'd like to be featured next time, hop over to Instagram and submit your question to us at JuiceBagPod. Now let's get back to it.
Welcome back.
I feel like we hit the same notes every single time.
We're so simpatico.
Hey, Jett, how's your juice bag doing now?
Oh my God. Well, I
How
feel
was break?
I feel a little bit more energized, I'd say, because there was some adrenaline
You don't
going
say
on.
so. Why?
Yeah. So as soon as we hit stop on the record button, I got a flood of text messages from all my friends and family asking if I had started a new Instagram account for a nudie page. Nudies.
Yeah.
So yeah, someone made a porn account with my picture.
Jett Jones in the bio. Goth mommy.
Yeah, it said,
Woo, woo, woo.
your new goth mommy. Follow me for lewd content.
Yeah,
or
with a little
something.
link to Fansly. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty nasty.
the most concerning part was that there was 250 followers of the Fansly.
No, there was 1,200.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you ever had confidence issues, no need to anymore.
I feel like maybe I've reached my peak in life with face hotness because someone actually out of the world saw my profile photo and thought that would be enough to lure people in to a porn account.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Said that lady can sell video. She's gonna be a star.
I'm gonna be a star.
They blocked my ass.
Yeah.
which-
What? Okay. First, what in the misogyny is that? Because
I would be the number one. I would be the first person to subscribe. Are you kidding me?
You.
I'm your number one customer. Goth mommy Jett, sign me up.
Oh my God. So anyway, we both, so after I got this flood of text, I was like, what are you talking about? And I searched the account on Instagram and I could find it and report it. And
Yeah, they
Dakota's
didn't
like,
block you.
yeah, I know, which it's they're using my handle, my picture to post about it. And
Oh, they're using more than your handle.
yeah, and they're trying, well, first of all, I don't have any nudes out there, so they're not actually posting anything of mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, they, for some reason, didn't block my account, but they blocked my husband's account from the porn account.
Yeah.
So explain that.
Yeah.
That's really weird.
I don't know. I think it was because I was in your bio as link husband is Dakota.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway, I don't know. So anyway.
Kind of a fun for the plot moment.
Yeah, for the plot, I
obviously
guess.
we reported it, and if you guys are on Instagram, please follow us and report that account.
Yeah.
Jett Jones 65 is a fake account, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it gets taken down. I reported it and blocked them, and my friends are blocking it too. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see if it gets taken down, but that's really interesting.
I know. Well, obviously we're poking fun, and it is kind of funny that they called you Goth Mommy, but how does that make you feel? Is it okay? Does it rattle you at all?
A little bit.
This literally just happened to you,
Yes, like 3
5
seconds
minutes ago.
It wasn't bothering me at first when I thought that they had just made an Instagram account, but when they had a link in bio to an account that was very clearly like OnlyFans adjacent, where if you scroll down, there are some very, very poorly blurred out porn images on it, like actual porn video GIFs or whatever, of just like blurred, like generic porn, I guess.
Yeah.
That kind of got me skeeved out because I'm a relative.
Well, and your photo was on the on the account.
My picture was at the top of this account, and then you scroll down and there's like those blurred images. So that freaked me out a little bit because I would say on the modesty train, if Mormon is one side and Snooki's on the other, I probably land closer to the Mormon side than the Snooki side, if that helps explain things. So I don't like the idea of being attached, although I don't shame those who must rely on sex work to get by. I also, have made the choices that I do not want to be that. And so it feels weird to then feel like I am that without asking.
Yeah.
So
it's gotta feel weird.
Yeah, it feels a little weird, but I think enough people will report it where it will go away, or I'll just choose to forget about it because that's too weird. And I'll make my Instagram private because it was public before.
Yeah.
Because I was hoping to connect with our listeners. That's the only reason why.
Maybe you still can. I mean, maybe this is just a fluke. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the worst they can do, I guess, is take my profile photo, which they didn't actually steal my info. They just stole they copy and pasted my profile picture, which I feel like you could do that anyway. So anyway, not that big of a deal. Hopefully it gets taken down. Makes you feel a little bit weird, but I'm ready to move on.
Well, good. Okay, you ready to get some lighthearted questions then?
Yeah. What are the questions of the week? You got the majority of questions.
Sure.
In fact, you got them all. So I'm ready.
I texted my group right before we started, and I feel like they came in clutch. So I'm going to ask you the first one, okay?
Okay.
First question is, what are the pros and cons of being married to your best friend?
Ooh.
Prolonged to think of
Pros
questions
and cons. So I feel like the pros are, should we start high or low?
High or low? What do you mean?
Pro or con? Should we start pro or con?
I feel like we could start with cons. I feel like there's less cons.
Okay.
Knee-jerk reaction.
To me, the con would be that if you perceive your partner to be your best friend, that typically means in a romantic relationship, if your partner is your best friend, they're also the person you want to spend all of your fun time with. So like you're going out, you're socializing and all that. So I would say a con would be that you're potentially putting all of your emotions and all the good and bad emotions in the basket of one human, which is a very vulnerable place to be in, especially when they are their own human and they need their own needs. And sometimes that doesn't meet exactly what you need. And if you're putting all of your emotions in that basket of your bestie, of your lover, of your partner, then if you're expecting love and companionship and entertainment and coddling and help from and all of the above, all the good and bad of any relationship from that one person, that can put a lot of pressure on the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would that be in like layman's terms?
I would just say,
If you had to reduce that to a sentence.
I don't know if I could. I mean, you would just be, the con would be that you're relying on your partner for every emotion that you have because...
Well, I guess the reason I asked is because I feel like that's true with any relationship, not just with friends. Relationships with best friends, I mean. I would almost argue that that's a pro in the fact that like you are making this leap of faith into a relationship with somebody that you've already established a very close bond with, somebody that you could trust.
Well, yeah, I guess I'll clarify then. I don't think that's the case. I think when you're in a romantic relationship, it's super important to have friends outside of that relationship. Like, although that they're your best friend, as long as you have other social relationships, then you'll be fine because you'll have other outlets. But the thing is, as we talked about with juice bags, I may wake up that day and I didn't sleep well, and so my cup isn't very full to like uplift you if you were down. Yeah. That's what I mean. So like it's a gamble whether or not your partner will be able to be there for you in, you know, the friendly ways and the lovey ways that you need at every moment.
I guess that's true. I'm trying to think of a con myself. Becoming friends with, or was it marriage or dating somebody?
I think, I don't know.
Let me review the questione. Pros and cons of being married to your best friend. I would say a con of being married to your best friend is that you do fall into a rhythm of friendliness as opposed to like respect and romance.
Yeah,
and I feel like
definitely.
we fall into this sometimes where like I think it even happened today where I said like I called you sis kind of like as
Yeah.
a joke or something like
Yeah.
that. And you were like, I don't like being called sis. And then I made it an even better joke by saying, well, that's just how you identify when you're born. And you're like, you're so stupid.
That's not what I said.
I think that is what you said in the tone that you said it. Yeah.
Screw you. That is not true. I will not allow that to be on record. I think I said, wow, don't love being called sis by my husband.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and see, but we grew up, you know, making fun and poking fun at each other all the time. And so I feel like there is, maybe it's a con, maybe it's not, because it is fun to kind of poke fun at the other person. But you do get that familiarity with one another. And so there's less, I wouldn't say like overall there's less romance, but there's more opportunity for like kind of friendly jabs as opposed to like romantic gestures when you're really, really good friends.
Yeah.
Agree, disagree?
No, I think, yeah, that was going to be my next and probably only other con would be, yeah, that same thing where if your tone is more friendly or you're taking something lighthearted, but your like marriage is a more serious one as you relate to each other, it can maybe put distance between you two if, you know, that's approached in a like too casual of a way when they want to be taken serious when
Totally.
they're being treated more as a friend than a spouse, where a spouse is like they run your household with you. They're like a business partner. You're financially tied to that human being. It is a serious relationship, you know? Typically you share a household in traditional sense, so yeah, it's a big deal.
That's kind of interesting. Kind of an interesting perspective. I almost think of it as like the most extreme analogy would be like if your friend, you and your friend go out to eat, it's like, yeah, you split the meal or something like that. But if you're married to somebody that's like not really your friend, it's almost like having like an employee. You got to pay for that partnership in romance and gestures and all these cute things. But anyway.
Yeah, there's a balance. But what are the good parts?
I feel like everything else that we didn't say is a good part.
It's a good part.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I feel
agree.
like the pre-established relationship, the familiarity, the friendliness, honestly, with one another. I feel like you have my back, I have your back. We've proved that when we weren't married. We proved that when we are married. It's like, it just makes things so much easier. And so I feel like if somebody's on the fence about even dating somebody that they're best friends with, I can understand how you could be hesitant because you don't want to, you know, put that relationship in jeopardy. But honestly, it might be worth a gamble because it might pay off.
I think the best part of it is when you practice vulnerability with someone. And a lot of the time, the difference between a best friend and just an acquaintance friend or someone you keep at arm's distance is like your bestie and you can be goofy. Like Dakota and I, behind closed doors, we talk in baby voices to each other. We
dance a lot.
We shake our tail feathers.
We shove our fingers up each other's butts as they walk up the stairs.
It's more of a karate chop, but yeah.
I don't know.
We take turns. But yeah, I feel like there are a lot of awesome parts.
I think literally, I don't think we even need to go into it because it's just like every other thing that we didn't say that would be perceived as like a pro is a pro. Like I love my relationship with my best friend /wife /Jett. I think you're so fun. And I think people know that. And I think that's why they make fake accounts of you to try and sell stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah, I would just say don't take it for granted because when your partner is your best friend and they're the person, because the way I view the definition of best friend is like they're the person you opt to see the most. So that's kind of, I guess, where my brain is approaching the question from. So don't ever take it for granted that they are your bestie and your partner. And, you know, there's cycles for each of those things where you need to prioritize the friendship in the relationship, but also don't forget about the romantic relationship at the core. And then you'll be fine.
Good. I like that.
Yeah.
I had an anonymous one from a listener.
Oh, really?
Don't mind, yeah. Freaking Instagram. Here it is. Let me know what you think. I'll ask this raw to you. What is the best way to communicate if something makes you feel uncomfortable but doesn't seem like that big of an issue? Like, how do you keep it from getting worse and worse to the point that it becomes an issue?
Oh. Ask the beginning again.
What's the best way to communicate if somebody makes you feel uncomfortable, but it doesn't seem like that big of an issue?
Well, that's a very difficult one. And I feel like I'm not the best at this one either because I opt to be shy and like not say anything a lot of the time. But I would say first and foremost, you need to identify if it's a safe place to do that.
Yeah. The immediate question I feel like is, why is that person making you feel uncomfortable? Is it because you are having a disagreement? And if you guys are having a disagreement over something that's not really an issue, you know, that you keep having an argument about, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you could think of it so generally, you know, that you could go anywhere with it. But I would say it depends on what it is that's bothering you. Technically, you know, if I'm to play devil's advocate or just like, you know, pick apart the question a little bit, it would be like, well, your opinion doesn't necessarily mean that's correct either from the get-go. Where your feelings are always valid, of course, like you're feeling
Your feelings
them.
are always valid.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I do feel like sometimes we have our own personal biases when entering conversation or environments on things that we like or don't like. So there can be cases where it's not. But let's just say it's the example of like, I would use the example of like maybe someone you know always comments on like how you look or what your body looks like. I feel like that happens a lot, especially for women, where like a sibling or a parent, like when you walk in the room, sometimes it could even be a good thing technically, where they're like, oh wow, you look so awesome, like you look like you've been taking care of yourself and you know you're getting, you know, so fit. But then maybe there's been times where they've pointed out other things about your body that have made you insecure, like, oh, you're, you know, are you happy with how you're looking these days?
Yeah.
Or just like comments, like that's the first thing that comes to my mind as far as like discomfort. That would be kind of an obvious one to answer, where it's like at a certain point you'd need to first identify, is this person a safe, open person when it comes to accepting that dialogue? Because,
well, apparently not, because they feel uncomfortable around that person.
Yeah. So if you're feeling uncomfortable and you're past the point where it doesn't feel like they're a safe space to either accept those emotions and work through them with you or whatever, then I would say it's time to set a boundary, a calculated boundary about a situation. So,
Do you have an example?
well, I'm trying to think of how it would relate to, I don't know. I don't think this is really like super great advice. Maybe it wouldn't be a boundary, but I would try experimenting in conversation to understand their thinking a little bit better. So, for example, as it relates to the body thing, like I was talking about, is maybe you're talking to that person about something else on another day, and you say something like, oh, well, yeah, my best friend's been doing great at her new exercise program. I'm really proud of her. She said she feels really strong. And maybe that person then says like, oh, good, I was worried, she was getting a little flabby. Ha 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 ha. And says something about someone's body. I think that would be the time to, since it's not relating to you exactly, on how you can kind of navigate the conversation with them surrounding bodies and why they feel it's appropriate to make a comment or say something about something that makes you uncomfortable. So in that case, I would be like, oh, I just try not to like say anything about people's bodies because, you know, you never know if that could make them insecure of what they once were.
Yeah, we've even gotten into the habit of like, we don't look, oh, you look so skinny, you look so good looking, like you look so well. We tend to say like, oh, you look so happy, or like that kind of a thing.
Like whenever we can. Yeah. And you like, again, this situation, sometimes it is appropriate to give out a body comment if you feel so, you know, in that relationship, it makes sense. In the context, it makes sense. But yeah, maybe try ways in other conversations to understand their thinking a little bit more and kind of introduce the way you think to them through a what would it be called? Just like a median topic, like something in the middle. What's the word for that? Neutral. Like a neutral space where you're talking about someone else. Be like, oh, you know, it could even be like, oh, that celebrity I think went on Ozempic. She looks awesome. Or you'd be like, oh, well, you know, I always thought she was an amazing actor and she's great at her job, but I've never thought about, you know, her size really making a difference. Like, why do you think that? And then maybe if they're able to kind of express themselves a little bit more from a neutral place about a neutral person, you can understand where they're coming from. And maybe you could also relay some nuggets that could lay the bedrock for a future nudge to them. So you're like, oh, I try not to comment on people's bodies. Okay. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Zoom forward a couple days. You're in the room with them. This person walks in the room and says, man, have you been, you know, eating pie or getting squishy or whatever? And you say, oh, remember what I said about like comments about people's bodies? Like that I try not to like make comments, and I would appreciate if you didn't, because I'm feeling pretty guilty about the pie and it makes me feel kind of weird. So like, haha, can we not?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think the way I would answer this question is that, you know, what's the best way to communicate if something makes you uncomfortable? I think you took it a good way of like, well, figure out where the other person is, like try and relate, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like also too, this sounds like a question of like vulnerability, and kind of like, I don't know, because with everything that you said, it's like, it takes a lot of like self-awareness and understanding of why you were uncomfortable with that situation. And so it seems like in this situation, if you're trying to communicate something that makes you feel uncomfortable, you need to do it early and often.
Yeah, like train your brain. I think I was approaching it for like, it sounds like in this question, they're asking from a late stage point where you can't really
like there's already been precedents established. Like you guys are already kind of in a rhythm. But I feel like, especially with this thing, if it's something that's been lingering, maybe it's not an issue now, but something like, I feel like we experienced this with like, oh, that's something I didn't like, and like I can deal with this for a while, but maybe at year 50, like this could break us up, kind of a thing. You know, I feel like, especially with like so many vulnerable things in relationships, like sex and body image and like, you know, God, I don't even know, like freaking job insecurities and like addictions and things like this. Like there's so many things to be vulnerable and honest about that you need to establish a neutral space where you can actually like talk about those things. And, you know, if your partner lacks in that, then maybe you need to either find a different outlet or figure out a different way to communicate with them. And so I feel like the way you deal with this and keep it from getting worse is that you get ahead of it as soon as you possibly can. As soon as you understand it makes you uncomfortable, you have to communicate it.
Rip the Band-Aid.
But also do the self-reflection too, to understand why it makes you feel uncomfortable and what you can do.
And I'll add, discomfort in a situation isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can just be a signal of change and evolution in a relationship, which there's always tension before change. I feel like with everything, like people get sick and they die. People, you know, they grow and change. There's always like something that triggers change, you know, and typically it's a uncomfortable or unwanted situation that leads to growth and change that makes people feel closer. Yeah. So obviously this is not the case if someone is abusive and terrible and can't
that's something
cannot
totally
communicate.
different.
But in this case, maybe if it is late stage, you need to embrace that just because it may cause some discomfort may not mean it's not a net good. As long as you're approaching it in a polite way.
It's like your relationship is a body, and difficulty in communicating or uncomfortability is kind of like a pain. Mm-hmm. It just means that something needs to be done. Mm-hmm. It means something needs to be attended to. Mm-hmm. And how you choose to approach that is good, but you need to address it. You can't just live your whole relationship in pain. That's no way to live.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong, like we said earlier on, like everyone's feelings are valid. You just have to take ownership of them, understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling, and then come up with a good way of communicating that effectively to your partner. And then if they're unreceptive, that's another question of like, maybe I need to find somebody who's a little bit more receptive.
Right. Yeah. I guess I should have been thinking about this more.
No, it's okay. It's a raw question.
Maybe it's because my knee-jerk reaction is like, you and I are at this point very vulnerable, so I relate discomfort and those sorts of conversations with family more than like my romantic partnerships. But I do feel like, it's the bedrock of a romantic, long-term, monogamous relationship is trust. And usually trust means access to vulnerability.
Yeah.
And
it's what separates you from your best friends.
Yeah.
Is the ability to be vulnerable with one another.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like once you make the move, like I said, as long as you're approaching it from kindness when you're talking to them about it, like you need to check yourself and make sure you're not entering a blind rage and, finally
I'm uncomfortable.
yeah, finally spewing out all the pain you felt. Like check yourself, make sure you're comfortable and you're at peace, and communicate as clearly and kindly as you can.
Yeah.
And then the ball's in their court. And if you're uncomfortable and they're uncomfortable, that isn't a bad thing. It just means change is coming.
Yeah.
And whether that means a boundary will then have to ensue, like, oh, I no longer will go to this person regarding this. Or they'll be receptive to it and it will take a little bit of time and you guys will work through it and then you'll be stronger.
Yeah.
So,
and I feel like, I just come at this question from a different angle just because I feel like I've experienced both sides of it. But like, I do think this also breeds a lot of like self-accountability too. Like you really do have to do the legwork on why you're uncomfortable with that. Figure out first and foremost, not to like throw it, I don't victim blame or anything, but like make sure it's not a you problem first. And if it is, still talk about it, but also be aware of that. Maybe the person is completely unaware of why you are uncomfortable. Especially with stuff like sex. Like there are some people who are like, well, I couldn't even imagine not having or liking sex. Then there are other people who are like, I don't know how people do that because that's scary and I don't like to get naked,
Yeah.
It's just a different way.
Before I forget, I feel like one of the best like nuggets of information I learned from Dr. Phil, nonetheless, when I was a young teen.
Open the door.
Yeah, that guy. On how to effectively communicate to anyone is to use I statements.
Absolutely. No. You do not throw things at other people.
So an example would be, let's say, I don't know.
It's so funny. I feel like that's such like I know it's not general knowledge, but for us, it's like,
yes.
It almost goes without saying. I statements only.
I'm trying to think of like an example that we could use. It would be like saying,
oh, I feel like people always
you make me really uncomfortable when you say I look fat.
Yeah. Or
Instead,
the cop out of like, I feel like you do this.
Yes.
It's like, oh, that's such a shitty like workaround way.
Yes.
Don't be doing that.
So you need to say, I have been feeling uncomfortable with comments made about my body. I really want to talk about this to see if we can figure out a new way to communicate. Instead of, you make me feel terrible, you always put me down, you make me feel like crap.
Yeah.
That immediately speaks for the other person and you're signing up for them to be defensive.
Oh, yeah.
Which you have to take responsibility that if you come at someone with a bunch of accusations before you understand their perspective, they're immediately going to dismiss, or they may not, but they're likely to dismiss you and not take what you're saying seriously because they're going to be so upset that you just came at them with all these blamey things, when instead you could just express how you've been feeling and see if what they've been feeling aligns.
Exactly.
And then you get the opportunity to, find that compromise in the situation or that healing that makes you both comfortable again.
Yeah. It reminds me of that old adage. I actually love this question. I feel like it's so broad and so many things we could talk about. But it reminds me of that old adage of like, every plan is perfect until it's implemented. It's like you have to go into a conversation where you need to be vulnerable and understand that your perspective and your idea and your vulnerabilities are incredibly subjective.
Yeah.
They are just about you from your perspective, and they do not take into account other people's actual feelings. You can project all you want and be like, so-and-so thinks I'm fat. It's like, did you ask them? Do they think that now? Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. Who knows? But you got to approach that almost kind of like figuring out information. That's why you say the I statements, so that they can either validate or squash whatever vulnerability or anxiety that you're feeling. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's a good place to end that one. What do you think?
I do too.
Cool.
What's next?
I have another raw one to throw at you. A real grease ball, okay?
Ew.
What's the best way to move on from a disagreement where both of the individuals feel strongly that their position is correctamundo? I have a good Hispanic accent. Don't you agree?
Yeah. Oh
I do.
One of the cringiest times, the whitest you've ever been, is when we went to Mexico that one time.
Oh, God.
And I realized how much beginner Spanish I had taken, and listening to you say like, hola, whatever to people was like, that was an ick. Hola.
That's really mean. Why didn't you say anything?
I think I did many times.
Hola, 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 hola. Oh, God, that's so embarrassing.
That's okay.
Anyway.
What were we talking about?
Sorry. God.
Oh, how to move. Okay. I know.
Best ways to move on from disagreements. Yeah.
Oh, God. This one's tough because...
Can you think of like disagreements that we fundamentally have, like that we can use as an example?
Not a serious one, but the squirrel theory.
Dude. Yeah.
We'll never agree on that.
This is fine. It's so... The word squirrel just instantly pisses me off because of this. Jett thinks that I killed a squirrel and a baby squirrel. It was a squirrel mommy holding a baby squirrel in its mouth so in Boise. And I very obviously killed it in Moscow.
No.
And the baby squirrel didn't die, but the mommy one definitely died.
So, okay. Dakota and I were driving along one day, and this adorable...
Shut the fuck up, dude. Stop
adorable
it.
mommy squirrel was carrying a baby squirrel in his mouth.
So terrible.
And it was running across the road, and Dakota hit it.
Stop it. Oh, no.
It's so sad and so not funny. And we didn't know because it just looked like one really big squirrel.
I saw it in the rearview mirror.
And when we looked back, there were two squirrels flopping around, and it was really sad.
It was.
And it was, that to be said, it was burnt into my mind. That happened in Boise.
It was like a flashbulb memory, yeah.
And Dakota thinks it happened in Moscow, and we both can so clearly picture it happening
in different places.
So the story is exactly the same from both of us, but just the location and which street we were on in different towns is the debate. And we've never once ended that conversation agreeing on where it actually happened.
Yeah, man. Like, I don't want to answer this question that the viewer sent us with like a to each their own type of situation. I feel like in that case, it's a... You can choose to believe what you believe.
Exactly.
But I know I'm right kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like let's up the stakes a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, can you think of anything that we like fundamentally disagree on? Not to put you on the spot. I'll try and think of one too.
Not really.
I mean, we agree on the big stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I don't know, maybe...
We just prioritize different things, but it's not... But the baseline we agree. It's not like an outright disagreement.
Yeah. I will say that the things that I disagree with you disagree with you, how the hell would I say that? Are the same things that make me love you. Like, they are what makes you who you are. And I feel like your perspectives and outlooks on things that I find stupid are really entertaining. And they're really good to be around. And I feel like you're making a lot of faces at me, but I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be nice.
I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I guess I get what you're saying, where it's like, you know, it makes your partner who they are.
Yeah.
And you're not going to agree about anything, or not going to agree about everything.
Yeah.
You know, but I feel like people prioritize different things. As far as like fundamental disagreements, what was the question? Like, how do you move on?
How do you move on from fundamental disagreements where both people feel like they're totally correct? And I feel like we're kind of dancing around the more serious aspect of this.
So let me get serious.
Let's get serious.
If it's a core pillar, you need to establish whether or not it's a deal breaker to you or not, whether you can't agree on it or not.
Yeah. And in fact, Jett and I actually did a game like 2 days ago, I think, where we took a bunch of cards about like different priorities in life.
Yeah. Our friend let us use her like emotional.
Do you remember the name of it?
No, it was like top 10 like moral.
Yeah. It was like a card. It was like 60 cards, each with like their own little moral quality of like whether or not like self-discipline is important to you, or like being humble, or like charity, or things like that. And there's just cards with single words on them, and you have to rank them basically by like your top 20, and then your top 15, and then your top 10, or however it works.
Yeah, you just dwindle it down to your top 10.
But the point of the exercise in the game is that basically when you end up with your top 10, like there's only so much we can achieve in life. And so you just kind of don't ever worry about the other 50, which I felt like was actually really helpful, because I feel like it taught me a lot about myself and who I want to be and what I prioritize. And it kind of gave me the permission to just let other things go. And so I feel like, to your point, if you can establish if this disagreement that you guys both agree separately on is a deal breaker, then that's an issue. But if it's not a deal breaker, guess what you got? A non-issue that's fun to fight about.
Like where the squirrel thing happened. Yeah, definitely. And I think you'll know, like, I feel like we always make this, like, we always distinguish this, but like, if there's a case where you feel as though your partner is just being hard-headed about all of your opinions, or, you know, abusive in response and belittling, and not ever finding a point of compromise or open-mindedness towards a conversation, that's a much bigger issue. But if, you know, every blue moon you all disagree about a small thing, and then every, you know, year or so you come across a big, like, oh, we got to figure this out disagreement. Yeah. It just is contextual, and it depends on how important it is to you or not. Like, I feel like a big one, especially for kids or grown-ups our age, is about kids, like whether to have them.
I feel like there are three. It's like kids, like political stance, and then like religion.
Yeah, and money.
Money's a big one too.
Money's a big one.
Yeah. Which, like, again, I mean, I hate to say that, like, you have to agree on most of those, because, like, I guess it just depends on the severity. Let me go back to the question. Maybe they dictated the severity of the agreement.
I don't think so. I just think they said when you can't agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could go anywhere with that one. But I would say, first and foremost, like, if you, let's say the disagreement has happened and this is what you're thinking about, I would say you need to, first of all, establish if it's a deal breaker. Even if it is small and it's bothering you, like, it's okay to bring that up again, like we mentioned, bring up I statements and talk about how it made you feel. And, you know, you could maybe take some time to chip away at the conversation and just try to not tell them how to feel, but continually inform them where your mindset is coming from, so that maybe they can understand from a place that's not like a, you know,
Yeah.
a big tension-filled disagreement. It's more
Totally.
like
I mean,
a rolling
if it's
conversation.
appropriate too.
Yeah.
Like, don't always be trying to seek out this disagreement, but like, you know, tell them how you feel, but don't tell them how you feel they ought to feel.
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
Of thing.
Yeah.
Open-mindedness is so important in relationships, I feel like, and respecting and understanding another person's stance, whether that be politically or religiously or anything like that, is really important, and it says a lot about like character, especially for people who you're going to be spending the rest of your life with. Like, being agreeable is so important, I feel like.
Yeah, and I will also add that it is so important to look out for if this happens in relationships all the time, especially maybe for younger folks, but I would say even some of the older folks in relationships that I've seen, where it seems like there's always a default right person
Yeah.
or the most correct.
I hate to say it, but I do see it a lot in like religious couples.
Yeah.
It's kind of like one person's the leader of the house, whether it's the wife or the husband.
Yeah, but also like I've seen it in non-denominational, liberal young people households where just for whatever reason there's a person who has a little bit more pull.
Yeah.
And that can lead to their perspective taking over in a household. And so I would just say, make sure that if you feel as though you believe something, that it's okay to have open-mindedness to change, but you also deserve that in return. And it shouldn't just be one person or the other, because I'll admit, I feel like women are way better with their words, maybe just in my age range, at explaining their feelings and are a little bit more in touch.
Yeah.
And people like me who've trained in Oprah and Dr. Phil tactics to healthy communication leads me to get what I want more often, I feel like. And then I think something that's brought us a lot closer together was realizing that although I can defend myself like a lawyer, and like usually talk my way into feeling right, and therefore you feeling as though I'm right, doesn't mean I'm right.
Yeah.
It means that I explained it better in that circumstance. So I feel like us acknowledging that years ago, for me, was like a big milestone for us. Was like, there's no default right person. There's no, this or that. It's like,
and I feel like that's actually a unique thing that we did, because I don't feel like anybody who's in like a typical relationship would be like, well, no, the point of winning an argument, the people who are right are the people who can defend the argument the most and like have the most confidence and have the most evidence and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, also, you don't need, like, unless you feel the need to be right, it doesn't need to be that way.
That's so true.
Yeah. Well,
I always feel the need to be right.
I know, which is why it was so weirdly awesome for you to like kind of almost disarm yourself, because here I was losing every fight that we started, even though I feel like I had the moral high ground in some cases, but you were so good at just like evidence, support, like you were writing a freaking essay on my ass. And then you're like, well, actually, I do think I'm wrong, but I do think I'm better, so we should probably move on from this.
No, that's not how it was. But yeah, we've had our moments where I feel like we defaulted, and I feel like it happened just how it happened, where it's like easier because one person prefers to be right, to opt that way. But yeah, I mean,
honestly, those kinds of arguments lead into so many other things we could talk about, like ego and pride and all those stuff. It's like, if you can let that shit go, you seriously will gain so much peace in your life by just not having to worry about fighting for your life in the trenches of, debate Discord channels and shit like that. Like, it's not worth anybody's time to be right just for the sake of being right. I mean, obviously, if it's a fundamental thing, blah, 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 blah. But to bring it back to the original point, which is that to each their own. People are allowed to have their opinions, and an important thing about relationships is to be open-minded and accepting of that person. But also, if it's not a big deal, it's not a big fucking deal, dude.
Yeah.
Except the squirrel did die in Moscow.
No.
I know.
Incorrect.
Did you have any questions for me?
I don't. Didn't get any
That's
submissions.
fine. You looked pretty pretty tired, especially after your infiltration on Instagram.
Yeah.
But I feel like we covered a lot of ground on here. I feel like we're kind of back in our flow. Come back a little bit more structured next time. Maybe you'll have some questions for me.
Yeah.
I'll have some better questions for you. We'll be good next week.
I won't be waking up at 6 a.m., so I'll have energy.
And we'll be able to hear about your Miami trip.
Yeah, except it's not to Miami. It's just to Florida, one of the beaches. Jensen Beach?
Jensen Beach?
Jensen Beach. Jensen Beach.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll figure out how it goes next week.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, everybody. We love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Juice Bag. Were you surprised by what we said? We were. Oh no, is this on the internet forever? Oh God.
Can't take it off the internet. Hope we don't do this again next week.
Ooh, what if we did this again next week?
Maybe it could be like a thing. Who knows?
See you next time.
Tune in next time to find out.
Or not.
Bye.